You can't welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am glad you are here. It is a beautiful day out. It was a beautiful weekend out, and I hope everybody had an opportunity to go out there and enjoy that sunshine. I know I did a lot of door knocking this weekend, and we'll get into that in a second. But let's get the formalities. Because I always, I'm so psyched to get in here and talk that I always forget that we have the little formalities that we're supposed to do. So here's the first one. We're gonna throw this up there on the top left-hand corner there. Of course, obviously we're running for election this year, so it's paid for by Joe Vollano 2024, and we're gonna answer some of your questions today. The emails. There's some really good questions. Some really deep questions. So we'll get into those after we get through what we need to finish off. But for those of you who are new to the show, I am Joe Vollano. I am your host, your guiding light, trying to get you through all the nonsense and kind of reading in between the lines to better educate and inform the public on what's going on, not only in state and federal politics, but most importantly in your local politics. Because believe it or not, local politics affects you a hell of a lot more than the federal stuff does. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday who again, loved this woman. So it was her first time door knocking. I couldn't believe it. I've known her for years, but she had never door knocked before in her life until yesterday. And me and her went out and we did Jepson Lane, Christopher Lane, all those areas up over there in South Meriden. So we had a really good time. So, of course, this show only works best when each of you are involved. So please, if you have a question, call in 203-805-2520. You can ask any question you want. I'm an open book. If you're new to the show, we talk about everything and anything. Nothing's off the table. Even the third rails of politics, we talk about them here because I think, and I said it before, it's extremely important that we can have an honest discussion with each other. It may not be things that we want to talk about, but it may be things we need to talk about. And we've talked about them on this show previously. I don't know, this light right now is blinding me, and I don't know why, and I don't want to actually move it. But because I actually do have some good light, and I don't want to do it, but it is kind of glaring me in the face, which is why I put my hat on. And of course, if you don't want to call in, you could always email us because you guys, I know you guys love to email. I tell you what, Berlin, you guys love the email, and I appreciate that. straighttalkjv@gmail.com, or you could do Vollano2024@gmail.com. I don't have that one up there. But Vollano2024 at gmail.com is also the campaign one. So, Linda, there you go. I'm sorry if I wasn't quick enough for you. But there is the phone number and address. And, of course, if you're on any of the social media platforms, you could always just jump in on the message board. I see all of them come up here. So I will answer questions as you shoot them in. So, as the teaser said, we're going to talk about, we're going to wrap up electricity rates. We're going to talk about parental rights. Parental rights was a big part of my campaign 2 years ago, and it is a big part again this year. And then we're going to, like I said, we're going to wrap up electricity. We're going to talk about parental rights. That will probably, I'm kind of weighing my options here because this is really going to be, I want to do a show next week. So for those of you who were not here last week, I am not in town next week. I leave Thursday for a conference in Nashville with a business group that I'm a part of. So I am going to be down in Nashville from Thursday to Monday night. So I'm going to try to do a show from there. I just don't know how the hotel is going to be Wi-Fi wise, since I won't have a hard connection. Maybe I will have a hard connection. I'll have to find out. Or maybe I could do it from a remote location that does have good internet. I'm working those details out. So, but we will definitely have a show next week. It's just a matter on what the format's going to be. Is it going to be on my cell phone doing a Facebook Live where you won't be able to watch it on YouTube? Or will it be a full-fledged, show as we see here every single week? I am going to bring 2 pieces of equipment with me. My board, which obviously controls everything, and my laptop. But sometimes my laptop does not have the memory, I guess, or the CPU speed to deal with high definition video. But we will see how that plays out next week. But we will definitely do something because I think it's important. We're only 3 weeks away from election time. We're what? We're 30 days away. 30 days away, and this will all be over. So I hope everyone goes out and vote. I mean, the turnout and the feeling out on the streets have been amazing. So I think people, again, and for people who think that Donald Trump is not in play in Connecticut, I think you're missing the boat. I think we're in a 2016 all over again where people just don't want to say anything. But I have Democrats. Doors that I'm knocking at are Democrats that are saying they're voting for Trump. So that's highly encouraging. So, and the way, Harris and them have been acting the last couple of weeks, especially with how they're handling this disaster down in North Carolina, I don't see how they recover from it. And now finding out that $750 that they're telling everyone to apply for is not a giveaway, not a grant, not here, help get yourself back on your feet, do something. It's a loan. It's a loan. It's craziness to me. But I don't want to get too far into the federal stuff. We could deal with all that federal stuff after November 5th. So we started last week talking about electricity rates. We were talking about, the vision we have for the 83rd District. And for everyone who doesn't know what the 83rd District, because again, it's the number one question I get not only in my messaging, on Facebook, on email, is what is the 83rd District? And it has changed over the last, 2 years. So I had to go write it down because it gets a little tricky. So for Meriden, if you vote at Lincoln, Hanover, or Putnam, you are part of the 83rd. In Cheshire, if you're in Highland School or Chapman School, you are now part of the 83rd. Now, Cheshire was never part of the 83rd until 2 years ago. So for Meriden, it's the same as it used to be, except we lost a couple sections. Anything south of Swain Ave is now part of the 82nd, and anything north of Johnson Road in Meriden, or Johnson Ave, is now part of the 82nd. So that's changed in Meriden. In Cheshire, again, this is all new for Cheshire. So Country Club to Johnson, Meriden line to Cheshire, Route 10. We have that little section there that connects to South Meriden. That little piece that connects to South Meriden. Then we have a small part north of 91. So if you live north of 91 and you live in Cheshire, not Southington, then you are part of the 83rd. And Berlin, we just got a little bit smaller, not much, but Berlin now goes from the Meriden line to Norton Road, and then from Chamberlain Highway to Berlin, to the Berlin Turnpike. And then there's a little section to the east side of the Berlin Turnpike. And that is your Willard School voting location, just the one voting location. So there used to be two. Now there's just one. So Willard School voting location is the 83rd. So if that helps, I'll also throw a map up on the live later on when I get it. So, so that again, that's the number one question. So I want to make sure I threw it out there right off the bat for those of you who are watching or who will be watching later on. I know a lot of people watch this show afterwards. I know a lot of city employees watch this show afterwards, hoping that they don't get named. So, but you guys are safe until November 6th. So let's talk about electricity, because we were talking about this, and of course we always have, everyone's up in arms about the public policy ones. And again, it is one of the things that people do talk about with me when we're door knocking. And I said this a couple weeks ago. I believe I have to reiterate it again, is that people need to be reminded how electricity companies, how the utility companies get to raise their prices. They can't just unilaterally raise their prices. As far as like Frontier, who is regulated through Pura on certain segments of their business. Eversource, both gas and electric, are regulated, and the UI is regulated. So for electricity and gas, they can't just raise up the rates. They have to ask for permission by a organization called Pura, and that is a state-regulated organization. And they have to, so Eversource have to present to them saying, hey, we need to raise rates, and this is why. And then Pura would have to turn around and say, yes or no. And of course, Pura always says yes. And why is that? Why is Pura always saying yes to the utility companies? It's quite simple. When you actually step back and look at what's really going on in the whole situation, is that Democrats run Pura. Just call it for what it is. We're just going to speak the truth. It's straight talk. It's run by the Democrats. And the Democrats are too busy spending your hard-earned money up at the state capitol. Again, you have Democrats sitting there this year talking about this huge tax cut that they gave to everybody. And it's the largest tax cut in state history. But what they won't tell you is that the last 3 or 4 tax increases they gave you were all state records also. They were all state record high tax increases. So this small percentage they're giving you back is nothing. They've already got you for, let's say, 10%. They're giving you 2% back. And they're claiming it as a win for them. And they're going to be touting it. And the first question I would ask any politician that's running on that is say that, but what about the tax increases that you've levied on us over the last 6 years? Because they've all been record high tax increases. But it's an election year. So they need something to run on. So they're saying, hey, look, we cut your taxes. Really, they didn't. So just keep that in mind. But because Democrats are up there raising your taxes and spending money hand over fist, someone has to pay for it, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing is free. So the Democrats have put quite an interesting plan together. For years, for decades, they've told you that corporations are bad, all while taking donations from corporations, all while taking PAC money. Letting PAC sit there for these corporations, do commercials for them, all while sitting in lobbying events with these corporations. So I find it quite hypocritical for Democrats to be bad-mouthing corporations when it's them and their lobbyists that are basically running the show. See, nobody wants to say that. I don't know why. Because that's the truth. It's one of the main reasons why you will never see me take $1 from a lobbyist, ever. I never have in my entire life, and I never will. I don't want lobbyist money. I don't want corporation money. I don't represent them. I represent you. I fight for you guys. But the Democrats need to make sure that you hate corporations and businesses. And that's why they always tell you, well, they need to pay their fair share. You know, they're making all these profits. So, to get circled back to the point, is that Democrats spend the money. They don't know how to pay for it. So they turn around and tell, and the quite example of this is, they told EverSource, you cannot shut anybody off during COVID. So you could pay your bill or not pay your bill. They cannot shut you off. EverSource is like, well, what the hell are we going to do? I mean, we can't just give it away for free. And the state pretty much said, yeah, that's what you're going to do. And then the state turned around and said, okay, well, since we can't give you money, we're not going to give you money that we got from the federal government. Because remember, the state got billions of dollars from the federal government for COVID relief. And while telling the electric and gas companies that you can't get shut, you can't shut anybody off, they didn't use any of that money to offset that on behalf of the companies. Instead, they wasted it on other nonsense. And then when EverSource is sitting there going, well, what about us? The state Democrats sure has said, just go ask Pura for it. Just go ask Pura. And that's what EverSource did. EverSource went to Pura and said, hey, you guys forced us not to shut anybody off. We lost millions and tens of millions of dollars. What are we going to do? We can't absorb that. We can't write that off. So Pura said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just charge it to the customers that did pay. And that's what they did. And that's why you see the public benefits on your bill. That wasn't because EverSource wanted to do it. EverSource needed to do it because they lost tens and tens of millions of dollars. And someone had to pay for it. And now Democrats have the public screaming and yelling at EverSource about why their bills are getting raised, when they know damn well they're the reason for it. But it's easier to blame somebody else than it is to blame the source. See, the problem with politics is they make you mad at the symptoms. They don't ever want to get to the root cause of it. What is the root cause? Which is overspending in Hartford. It's Democrats who have held this house probably as long as I've been alive, spending money like a drunken sailor. But again, they've programmed 90% of the people in this state to hate corporations, to hate EverSource, and everyone else in between. So they could deflect your anger to somebody else, when really all your anger should be at the Democrats up in Hartford. That is a fact. And when I explain that to people out in the streets, a light bulb goes off. Especially for you independents, because a lot of them I've been knocking on your door. The light bulb goes off. You've been getting played. The citizens of Connecticut have been getting played by Democrats for decades. And it's starting to click. You know, I had a question on Facebook today. Why do you do this when you lose all the time? Because every single campaign, every single time we say it, it reaches a couple more people. And it has been hitting people out in the streets. Like, wait a minute. When they think about it, they're like, wait a minute. You're absolutely correct. So people are waking up. But that's why it's so important to share this show. People need to hear this. The seniors need to hear this. The younger generation needs to hear this so they don't get caught up in it. But electricity rates and gas rates are high because of Democrats overspending in Hartford. And then they use Pura and Eversource as the scapegoats. That's how the game is played. In a nutshell, it's that simple. People think it's complicated. It's not. Because Democrats up in Hartford will say, well, Pure is their own organization and we don't have any part of it. Nonsense. Eversource is just a greedy corporation. Nonsense. Your 401ks, I guarantee, if you look into your 401k portfolios, you have Eversource in there or their parent company. So if they're taking the hit, you're taking the hit. So just keep that in mind when you're about to go voting. Because it is one of the biggest reactions that we get out on the campaign trail is when we talk about electricity rates and how the system works. And if we don't get our spending under control, it's only going to get worse in the future. So we'll leave electricity rates at that. I can't believe it's already 7:22. We got to get to some questions too. So parental rights. So again, like I said, we talked about this a lot over the last 2 years. And the main question I'm asking, this is really Cheshire, and really some in Meriden, some on the east side have asked about it. But Cheshire is like, this is like a huge topic for them. Parental rights and school choice. It's a huge topic out in Cheshire. And of course, the boys and girls bathrooms. I don't know if there's something going on over there that I'm not aware of. But for Cheshire, this is a huge issue. And again, my stance is, as it's always been, is that if you want to be trans, you want to be LGBTQ, whatever, I don't care. If you're over 18, do what you want. I don't care. It's none of my business. But when it's affecting the greater public, i.e. in the schools, and it's protecting girls from having guys in their locker rooms, in their bathrooms, yes, I am 100% against that. And I will scream that from the rooftops as many times as I have to. Boys should not be in girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. Period. That's it. They shouldn't be competing against girls in any sport. You know, for a lot of the feminists out there that I've run into, that have turned around and told me, a couple of choice words, I ask, being a feminist, how? How do you support this? You fought so hard for Title IX. To watch it just get thrown away. All that progress. To watch it just like that. Because you're not the group that they need to care about today. we talk about equality and equity and all this kind of diversity and all this nonsense. Because unless you're part of a specific group, they don't care about you anymore. They don't care about you anymore. And it's an interesting why. But if you go and look at the stats, it's actually very clear to see. And let's talk about the African-American community. The African-American community at record levels are coming to the Republicans. They love Trump. They absolutely love him. Because they have been promised the world by Democrats over the decades, at least the last 7 decades. They've been promised the world. But yet, they're not seeing any progress. Why? Because they're being bamboozled. They're doing exactly what they do to everybody on electrical and against corporations. They're doing that against Republicans. Republicans are evil. Republicans are out to get you. It's like the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard. But Democrats know that the African-American community is coming to the Republicans because they know they've been lied to over the years, which is why they're all for illegal aliens. They're all for the illegal immigration. They want as many illegals to come over the border as they possibly can because they see them as potential voters. They want them to come in here, get jobs, and get into the system so that they can, and let's just face it, illegally vote. For these cities that want them, they're just going to vote in municipalities. No, they're not. Once they're in the system, they're in the system. So Democrats know they need a new voting bloc. Because the one that's been dedicated to them for decades is now leaving. That's why you're seeing, the African-American community come out in Chicago and say, we're not doing this anymore. In New York, being overrun. They're seeing what liberal policies are doing. We see it here in our school system. Here in Meriden, our school system is being overrun. We have over 300 new students that, again, of no fault of their own, don't speak English. But now it's on the school system to educate these kids. That means it's on the taxpayers of the city to pay for it. Because the state certainly ain't doing anything for them. These are the things that are happening right now that affect each and every one of you. And it's all because of liberal and Democrat policy. And again, and for all you Democrats, the older generation Democrats, 50 years, let's say I'll go even 40 years and older. This is not your Democrat Party of Bill Clinton. This isn't the party of JFK. Today's Democrat Party is the far left, far left. Nancy Pelosi, San Francisco liberal policies. That's the Democrat Party you have today. You see it out in the streets. You see it in the rioting when things don't go their way. You see it in the sanctuary cities that are going bankrupt. Hell, California itself, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco. Businesses closing down, homelessness rampant. That's what comes out of liberal policies. That is what comes out of today's Democrat Party. So if you're a Democrat listening to this who doesn't really pay attention, and you're one of those people that come up to me and say, well, I'm a Democrat, so I just vote Democrat. I've always voted Democrat my entire life. To blindly vote for the demise of your country is mind-boggling to me. Just because you want to identify as a political party. Again, there are times I've gone against my party. In fact, again, I have a standard that I hold upon myself and I hold upon others. And I have even a higher standard for Republicans and elected officials and elected Republicans. I have that standard. And sometimes, even right here on the show, if you've watched this show over the years, you've heard me go very hard at Republicans sometimes because they're not meeting that standard. And that is transparency, accountability, being the protector of the funds of the citizens of whatever city, town, state, country you're talking about. And sometimes Republicans fall short of that. And they should be held accountable. Every politician should be held accountable. Hell, I should be held accountable when I get up to Hartford in January. Because you know what? I'm going to still be doing this show every week. We're still going to do this show. And you're going to have the opportunity to hold me accountable. I'm not going anywhere. I think conversation is what's needed and what's required of a politician and the community. So, back to parental rights, because we kind of went a little sidetracked on the whole. So again, no boys in the girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. School choice. Listen, parents are the best advocates for their kids. They know what's best for their kids. If they feel that a charter school, a private school, or the public school is the best option for them, they should have that right to decide. They should have that right to decide. My son started in a private school. We didn't like that private school. So after 2 years, we took him out and he went to public school. He loved it there. He loved it, and he did extremely well. And then in middle school, he decided that he wanted to go to a magnet school. So he went to the magnet school. And then he came back and said, okay, well, he wanted to go to Maloney. So he went to Maloney. He went back to the public school. That's up for the parents to decide. The government should not be the ones to sit there and dictate to a parent where his or her child goes to school. When the parent is involved in the decision-making of their child's education, the more involved they're going to get, the more engaged they're going to get, and the better that child is going to have at getting a great education and getting the most out of that education. And more of a higher chance of going to higher education. I say all the time, the more local you could get education, the better. I don't know why we have anything federal when it comes to education. We waste billions of dollars with the federal education system. That money could be better used going to the state and local communities. But the lobbying groups know that if they could get a hold of federal politicians, they can guide how education is going to go. And the one place that most students get indoctrinated into liberal policies is in the education system. So they don't want to give away that cash cow either. If I had it my way, the federal education system would be gone. There's no need for it. You can have a very small federal board of ed that just oversees the states. But I think this, again, and I'm a huge states' rights guy. You know, the way our founding fathers saw our country was not in a big federalist system. They didn't want a big federal government. The only reason why the federal government existed because national security and making sure that all states were in line, doing what they're supposed to do. That was really the only job, that and currency, being the treasury. Other than that, our founding fathers wanted the states to sit there and govern themselves, because each state is different. Each state has their own values. And it's not for the federal government to interfere with those. So, yes, I am a huge proponent of parental rights and giving the parents to empowering the parents to take a stronger stance and doing what's right on behalf of their child. Because like I said at the beginning, a parent is the best advocate for their child. They know what's best. We'll get into that, Sean, in a couple of minutes. So I know that the teachers unions hate when I say that, because again, you know, their philosophy is, well, no, everyone should just be in the public education system. But there's a lot of things that are wrong in our public education system. And then there's also some good things about the public education system when it comes to special needs. And again, I have a son who has special needs. The Meriden public school system is phenomenal when it comes to the special needs programs. Now, as far as some of the other parts of it, of the school system, there's room for improvement. And again, add in the fact that you have over 300 new students who don't speak English, you know, that now need those resources. It's tough for their school systems. I get it. And I'm sure Meriden is not the worst one off. So basically, again, parents, when you vote for your own rights. Vote for your own child's future. Democrats don't want to go anywhere near school choice. They don't like charter schools. They don't want your kids going to any of that stuff, because it takes the money away from them. So when you vote November 5th, or if you vote early, if education is a priority for you, vote to empower yourselves to make the best choices for your child, which is why you have to vote Republican. It's that simple. If you want to stay in some of the same old failing schools, I guess you got to vote the way you normally vote, maybe. But I don't think anybody wants that. I think every parent wants to be empowered to be the best advocate for their child. And a vote for Vollano is a vote for that. I'm here to encourage you to be empowered. I'm here to encourage you to sit there and do what's best for your children. The way we do for ours. So, Sean, to your thing. Yes, I sent out an email to my opponent, and he did respond. He responded in political fashion. I want to make sure. What did I do with it? I want to make sure that. New window. Where's my new window? There it is. No, that's not the one I want. Unbelievable. You know when you want something quick, it just never comes up. I have my Straight Talk window up. And for some reason, there it is. Not now. All right. So Jack did respond back, and he said, "Thanks for reaching out. Things are going well. Hope all good with you and your boys also. Obviously, this is disappointing news. I definitely agree with you on the importance of respectful public discussions, especially in the current political climate. I'd like to loop in the Meriden RTC and DTC leadership to take the lead together on coordinating with one another in terms of date time." So basically, as always, politicians want to bring bureaucracy into it. So obviously, he knows we're short on time. And his response was, well, let's waste more time by getting others involved. Now, I did respond back to him. I said, we can definitely loop into local RTCs because I am the local RTC chair and the Democrat town chair, as long as everyone's willing to work quickly, as we have a short amount of time to get this done. I'd like to connect. If you want to connect and talk more, feel free to give me a call. I left them my number. That was on October 1st, October 2nd. I have heard nothing since. So I am taking it that he is basically just going to run out the clock and then say, hey, you know what? We wanted to do it, but we just didn't have the time. That's basically what I'm getting out of that. Again, you were here for me to help you read in between the lines. That is political talk for, I need to run out this clock because there's no way in hell I want to stand on the other side of a microphone from Joe Vollano. And listen, I get it. I wouldn't want to be on the other part of that losing argument either. So, listen, I think we're still going to try to have it. I'm hoping to lock that up by time I leave on Thursday. I want to have this locked up. So we are still working on it, whether or not, he decides to join in on this or not. If Democrats wanted to join in, I should have heard back from them for now. That was 4 days ago. Listen, I know the Democratic Party of Meriden, they have no interest in doing a public forum because there is no way. They have zero interest in hearing from you. They have zero interest. They figure that they're gonna win with just by having the D at the end of their name. They're taking you for granted, as they always do. So by reading his email, that is political talk for. There's no need for us to do this. We're just gonna get everybody involved in it so that nothing happens, and that's not gonna fly. So Jack, if you're watching, or if someone who follows Jack is watching, tell him that's not gonna happen. We're still gonna have a debate. We're still gonna have a town hall. It's still gonna happen. Whether or not he joins us is up to him. But the people will hear from the candidates. Whoever wants to join in. If it's just me standing up there, I'm perfectly fine with that too. Because I am here for each and every one of you. I am always transparent, and I am as transparent as glass. You could ask me the question. You may not like the answer. But you know what? You're still going to get my honest opinion on it. You know, people ask me, you've run like 7 times. What's going to be different? Again, getting that message out there. Getting the message out there to more people. Again, the more times we do this, we're getting through to people. Whether it takes 1 time, 7 times, 1,000 times, I don't care. Republican values, Republican policies will be put forth to the people. I don't take losing as a bad thing. Does it suck? Of course it does. Of course losing sucks. But that mean we should quit? I teach my kids never to quit. And how would that look for me, to my children, if I turn around and said, well, you know what? I tried 7 times and, I didn't win. So, forget it. Who cares? No. I teach them to stand up for their values, stand up for your beliefs, and fight vigorously for them. It's okay. People could disagree with you. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. They can still be your friend, which is why we have a lot of Democrats that support us. I'm friends with a lot of Democrats in this city because they know we could disagree. We're going to do it respectfully. We could do it respectfully. And then go our separate ways. I don't hate Democrats. I don't hate anybody. I have issues with Democrats, with some Democrats. I have issues with some Republicans. And some Republicans have issue with me. And some Democrats have issue with me. That's okay. My validation does not come from them. My belief structure does not come from them. My belief structure comes from decades of experience of living on this earth. By experiencing different things, whether it's when I was homeless, sleeping on a friend's couch, whether it was working 3 jobs while going to college. There's a wide range of experiences that have led me to who I am today. Some good and some bad. Some good and some bad. But when it comes to my belief system and where I stand on things, you've all seen me here. I've been in Meriden politics for what? Since 2016, 2015. You hear me. Nothing has changed. Nothing. I stand firm on where, but now do I adjust some things? Sure, because I learn new things. I have an open mind. I love listening to Democrats. I love having political conversations more with Democrats than I do with Republicans. Because I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know why they do what they do. Why do you believe in that system? And it'd be amazing some of the personal stories that I've had with them. And I respect that. Because we're all on our own journey. And it's not for me to tell you how to live your life. But I will tell you why you should vote a certain way. And to give you examples, and again, I love to tell Democrats all the time, give them examples on why you need to get away from the Democratic Party. Because again, if you're 40 and over and not paying attention to current events in the current Democratic Party, you would have no idea how far left they went. The Green New Deal, the Police Accountability Bill. You would never know how far left they went. That's why this show's here. they're good Democrats. They're really sweet people. They're just too busy trying to live life to realize what's going on with their own party. Republicans fell into this problem in 2011, 2012 with the Tea Party. See, again, there's Craig, Project 2025. That's the Heritage Foundation. That has nothing to do with Republicans in office or Donald Trump. The Green New Deal. In fact, if you're trying to say that Project 2025 is something that everyone should be scared of, where do you stand on the new Green Deal? That's going to cost trillions of dollars. But Democrats don't want to talk about that. But they love to throw out these Project 2025 to distract you from what's really going on, ladies and gentlemen. They're trying to throw Project 2025 out to get you away from looking at the record inflation we have. We're at the brink of World War III. We have an open southern border. They don't want to talk about any of that. So they try to scare you with Project 2025, as if that's something that Republicans are running on. And Craig Hansen is a prime example of what that is. No, he's not very close on it, and he already acknowledged his stance on Project 2025. The problem is people like Craig Hansen, again, and this is the problem with the Democratic Party right here, is that you have brainwashed people that are too far gone. And Craig, I love Craig Hansen, don't get me wrong. He's a great guy. Politically, he is gone. He has drinking the Kool-Aid way too much, and he is stuck in this anti-Trump mode. He's stuck on this anti-Republican, and he can't even get out of his own way. He doesn't want to see the bigger picture. The border bill had nothing to do with border security. It had very little to do. In fact, most of that bill went to Ukraine and went to Israel and went to Taiwan. You know that, I know that, Craig Hansen. Now, most people here may not know that. And Trump can't kill anything. He's not elected. I got an idea. Craig, why don't you tell us why in the last 6 months, the Biden administration, Harris, has taken a total 180 on the border and implemented Trump policies. At the time that they're sitting there saying that, you know, look at what a great job we're doing now. Yeah, because you finally put forth Trump's executive orders again. And you're starting to see the border start dropping as far as illegal crossings. But see, Democrats and today's Democrats will do anything to get you away from what's really happening. And they'll sit there and they'll try to emotionally attack you because most Democrats vote based on emotion, where Republicans vote more logically. So when we sit here, we talk facts. And I don't know how you figure I'm far right. I'm pretty much down. I'm pretty center right. Because I know a lot of Republicans that are way more far right than I am. So, but again, Craig Hansen is a great guy. Personally, love him to death. Love him to death. Politically, I think he's insane. But at the end of the day, me and Craig could go out and have a drink together. We could have dinner together. I would do that in a second. And I have. We've spent a lot of time together. So, but that's what I'm talking about. Now, Craig, and I understand right off the bat, Craig will never vote for me. Now, granted, he doesn't live in my district, but Craig would never vote for me, and I wouldn't expect him to, because I would never want him to change his values or what he truly believes, if that's what's deep in his core, which I think it is, either that or truly brainwashed. And I hope, I think that's where he is. But, you know, but that is what we're fighting against. And we're trying to get people out of that bubble that they've lived in over the decades. So, oh, we haven't spent time together. Of course we did, Craig. Oh, God, we used to Uber and hang out all the time. Back in our Uber days, I used to love Ubering. I used to Uber because the conversations and the value you get out of people's thought process is amazing. And you could driving an Uber. And again, this is back in the day when you could make some money off of it. Driving an Uber, you could literally get a psychology degree. You know, it's probably better than a psychology degree from a university with how you deal with people. You know, and how people react and everything else. It's absolutely amazing. So it's always a good time. So look at that. Now Meriden Community Forum, you approved our post. We're already halfway through, almost through the whole show. We haven't even gotten any questions. Maybe this is what we'll do for next week. Because, I mean, there's some great questions here. You know, obviously term limits, transparency in Hartford, the growing concern of mental health, LGBTQ, which I you know where all that one came from, SROs. So we do have a lot of good things to think, but it's already 8 o'clock. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to hold off on the questions till next week. Since I'm away, this is an easy format for me to do without having all my stuff here. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So right now I have 13 different questions that I grabbed out of the 260 emails that I had. So we'll do that next week. We'll go through all these. I'll bring the list with me. So if I could do it with the speaker and everything else from the hotel, great. If not, we'll just do it from the phone. So we'll see how that goes from there. So like I said, at minimum, we'll do a Facebook Live. And I'll have to bring my tripod with me so that it holds the phone. Or do you know what? I bet Sean has. I bet Sean has one at his house in Tennessee, and I could probably grab his. So because he does a lot of TikTok Live and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, we would get into that kind of stuff at 24,000 first-time homeowners, and again, you know, well, we're not going to get into the whole federal stuff. That would only absolutely just plummet the friggin' housing market. No house would be affordable if you gave $25,000 to first-time home buyers. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It doesn't make any sense. And student loan forgiveness, again, is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And really, when you talk about student loan forgiveness, you're doing a disservice. You're really doing a disservice to the people that took them out, because you're teaching them that, you know what, you could take out loans and you could sign a promissory note, but really that doesn't mean anything. You could just not pay it, and eventually the government's going to come and bail you out. That's basically what you're saying. And to all the people that did pay their student loans like myself, you know, you're basically saying, yeah, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You shouldn't have paid it. So you're not teaching kids a life lesson that way. In fact, you're teaching them the wrong life lesson. You're teaching them to be dependent on the government. But again, it's a Democrat. Democrats, today's Democrat, wants you. And listen, the Democratic Party, especially the Democratic Party of today, needs a permanent underclass. They need a permanent underclass. Because if you didn't need the government, you wouldn't need a Democrat. And if you don't need a Democrat, you're not going to vote for a Democrat. So, again, everything Democrats do, they're not stupid people. They're not stupid people. It's everything that's happening is happening for a reason to get to the end goal. Votes. Votes, 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 and to make you dependent on the government. Republicans want to get out of your way. Republicans want to make it easy for you to start your own business. They want to make it easier for you to send your children to the school of your choice. They want to make it easier for you to purchase a home where you want. They want to make it easier for you to live in a peaceful, crime-free community. Where Democrats, today's Democrats, want to strip away the police departments. They want to defund the police. That's why the police accountability bill, they want to protect criminals. The youth criminals, they're trying to tell you, you know what, don't worry about it. They're too young to have it. We're not going to ruin their life. What did Jen say to me 2 years ago? We don't want to ruin their life. What about the lives of the victims that they're ruining? Democrats don't care about that. Democrats don't care about that. You know, after the 5th, 6th, 7th time of being arrested, these youths need to be held accountable. I'll take it one step further. The parents need to be held accountable. You want to have a real conversation. You want to have a real conversation on youth crime? What are the parents doing? What are the parents doing? When you have someone who has been arrested 5, 6, 7, and even more times than that. At what point do we as a society say enough is enough and we start holding everybody accountable? Think on that one for a week, and we'll pick that up again next week. Guys, as always, it's always a pleasure being here, even discussing this with all of you, especially Craig. Always nice to see you on the show. Always a pleasure when you join in on the conversation. Until next week, like I said, I will be joining you from Nashville, Tennessee, and I look forward to speaking with you guys and hopefully interacting with you guys. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. But until then, until next week, guys, I love each and every one of you. And as always, God bless you. And of course, God bless this absolutely amazing country of ours. It's the last place on earth for freedom and democracy when you think about it. And, you know, where are you going to go from here? Are we really let our country ready to go down the crapper? Not me. So hopefully we'll get enough people to join us on this crusade to save our cities, our states, and our country. And until then, guys, next week, I will see you later.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender faith. It's like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak and believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder, magic static. Call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist.